Psalm 35 is a prayer that expresses trust in God as defender and deliverer in the face of enemies and accusers. Here is a rough translation of Psalm 35. Contend, O Lord, with those who attack me. Fight against those who fight against me. Take up the shield and the buckler, and arise to help me. Draw out the spear and the javelin against those who persecute me. Say to my soul, I am your salvation. Let those who seek my life be ashamed and put to shame. Let those who plot my harm be turned back and put to shame. Let them be like chaff in the wind, when the angel of the Lord scatters them. Let their way be dark and slippery, when the angel of the Lord pursues them. For without cause they have lain in wait for me. Without cause they have dug a pit for me. Let unexpected ruin come upon them. Let them be caught in the trap they have hidden. Let them fall into their own ruin. Then my soul will rejoice in the Lord and exult in his salvation. All my bones will say, Lord, who is like you, who rescues the poor from those too strong for them, the poor and needy from those who exploit them? Sly witnesses arise and question me about things I know nothing about. They repay me evil for good. My soul is desolate. Yet when they were sick, I would clothe myself in sackcloth. I would humble my soul with fasting, and I would pray, bowing down upon my breast. As one mourns for a friend, so I would go about bowing down. As one mourns for his mother, I would bow down in grief. But they rejoice over my downfall and gather together. Those who attack me gather against me and tear me apart without ceasing. They are mocking hypocrites who gnash their teeth at me. O Lord, how long will you look on? Rescue my soul from their ravages, my precious life from the paws of lions. Then I will give thanks to you in the great assembly. Among many people I will praise you. Let not my treacherous enemies rejoice over me. Let not those who hate me without cause wink. For they do not speak of peace, but against those who are quiet in the land they invent deceitful words. They opened their mouths wide against me and said, Well done, well done. Our eyes have seen. You have seen, Lord. Do not be silent. Lord, do not turn away from me. Awake, arise for me, my God and Lord, to defend me. Judge me according to your righteousness, O Lord my God. Do not rejoice over me. Do not say in your heart, Well done, or We have swallowed him up. Let them be ashamed and confounded, who rejoice at my misfortune. Let them be covered with shame and dishonor, who magnify themselves against me. Let them be glad and rejoice who desire my righteousness, and let them say continually, May the Lord be magnified, who delights in the peace of his servant. Then my tongue will speak of your righteousness and your praise all day long. This psalm expresses feelings of trust, justice, and praise to God, crying out for protection and deliverance in the face of enemies and accusers. Psalm 35 is attributed to King David and is considered a psalm of lamentation and prayer for protection. The story behind this psalm is not explicitly told, but we can infer some details based on the text. Historical context. Psalm 35 was likely written during a time of great adversity in David's life. He was being persecuted by enemies who falsely accused and plotted against him. David calls out to God to defend him and deliver him from these enemies. David's enemies mentioned in the psalm are described as people who attack him without cause, who repay evil for good, and who rejoice in his downfall. These enemies may be followers of Saul, who was determined to kill David. Prayer and trust. David begins the psalm by calling out to God to arise and defend his cause. He expresses his trust in God, affirming that he is his defender and deliverer. David also asks God to judge him according to his justice and not allow his enemies to rejoice in his downfall. Themes. The main themes of Psalm 35 include protection. David cries out to God to protect him from his enemies. Justice. David asks God to judge according to his justice and not allow the unjust to prevail. Trust. David affirms that God is his defender and deliverer, and that we can trust him in all situations. Praise. David promises to praise God if he delivers him from his enemies. Application. Psalm 35 can be applied to the lives of Christians in several ways. Prayer. The psalm teaches us to cry out to God in times of adversity and to trust in his protection. Trust. The psalm reminds us that God is our defender and deliverer, and that we can trust him in all situations. Justice. The psalm teaches us to ask God to judge according to his justice and not allow the unjust to prevail. In short, Psalm 35 is David's prayer for protection and deliverance from enemies who falsely accuse and plot against him. The psalm expresses trust in God and asks him to judge according to his justice. Psalm 35 is a prayer that calls for justice and protection from enemies who falsely accuse and plot against the psalmist. Justice is a central theme in this psalm, and we can highlight some important aspects. Cry for justice. David calls on God to arise and defend his cause, asking him to judge according to his justice, and to deliver him from enemies who attack him without cause and who return evil for good. Unjust enemies. David's enemies are described as unjust people who attack him without cause, who return evil for good, and who rejoice in his downfall. They are characterized as hypocrites and mockers who gnash their teeth at David. God as a righteous judge. David affirms that God is a righteous judge who defends the cause of the oppressed and the poor. He asks God to judge him according to his justice and not allow the unjust to prevail. Consequences of justice. David asks God to cause his enemies to be ashamed and confounded, and to cover them with shame and dishonor. He also asks that God be glorified and that the righteous rejoice in his presence. Application. Psalm 35 teaches us to cry out for justice and protection from enemies who attack us unjustly. We can learn from David to cry out for justice. We can ask God to judge according to his justice and to deliver us from enemies who attack us unjustly. Trust in God. We can trust God as our righteous judge who defends the cause of the oppressed and the poor. Be patient. We can learn to be patient and trust in God, even when we face injustice and adversity. In short, Psalm 35 is a prayer for justice and protection from unjust enemies. David affirms that God is a righteous judge who defends the cause of the oppressed and the poor and asks him to judge according to his justice.